hello. It's been a while. If you don't recognize this sultry, sexy voice, it's the it's the voice of Steven, and the other voice is...
This is Dakota, the one and only.
The one and only, and we are tandemly the Dakota Boys Talk Movies, and we're here with a new episode. It's good to be back. It is good to be back, as Iron Man says in the fantastic masterpiece Iron Man 2. Dakota, how do you feel about Iron Man 2?
You know, I haven't seen it, honestly, in years, and I'm okay with that.
I haven't seen it in years either, but I honestly don't think it's as bad as people give it.
Well, it's not bad, but it's kind of...
It's just there.
Just a weak follow-up to...
it's just kind of there.
You look at the first one, and it's like, that's a really solid movie, and then the second one, it's... Like, even thinking about it now, it's like, you could trim that down to an 18-minute movie. And you would still get... You would not lose anything.
But would you get enough Sam Rockwell?
You can never have enough Sam Rockwell.
But we're not here to talk about that weak Marvel movie. We are here to talk about another weak movie in a franchise.
Wow.
We are here to talk about Captain Marvel, starring Zachary Levi.
Ah, yes. The big red cheese himself.
Oh, man. Yeah, so in this episode, we're going to do a double review. Not to totally confuse you right off the get-go, we are going to talk about Captain Marvel, which is the Marvel one with Brie Larson, and we're going to talk about Shazam, which is the Captain Marvel DC movie. Let's make it more confusing. Just keep saying Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's...
So, Dakota, why don't you give us, just in case people aren't familiar and haven't watched all the YouTube videos that have been coming out, what is the storied past to this whole Captain Marvel confusion and name throwing around?
Okay, folks, let's go.
Buckle in. It's story time with Dakota.
We're going back to the 40s. Was it the 40s? I forget. There's so much convoluted history when it comes to comics. Anyway, Captain Marvel was created back in what is commonly called the Golden Age of comics. And when I say Captain Marvel, I'm referring to Billy Batson, the Wizard Shazam. That was the first Captain Marvel ever. In my opinion, the best. But, that's me. That's me. You guys probably have your own opinions. He was created, and he was kind of simply because of the fact that it was, I think, a child who was like the main character. He says the word, boom, turns into this big, beefy superhero with all these powers. He actually became pretty popular fast, and his comics started out selling Supermans.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Well, DC wasn't going to take this, man. They were not going to take this, so they sued the pants off the company that owned Captain Marvel. And eventually they which was called Fawcett Comics.
Okay.
There's a little nod in the movie to it. I think they go to the Fawcett High School, I think is what...
Yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. I did
Yeah.
notice the high school name, and I figured it. Usually high school names in these types of movies mean something.
Yeah. But anyway, Fawcett Comics eventually stopped printing the Captain Marvel comics. And eventually DC kind of just swooped in years down the road and bought the character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's...
Bought the character, but not the company?
I think they bought the whole company because Captain Marvel actually had a pretty huge cast, and they were all basically absorbed by DC.
Oh, okay.
Well, the problem is at the time, Captain Marvel, the Marvel comic character, was kind of around. I don't know if the character's ever been you'd say a huge popular character.
Not until it became female. It seemed like once it became female, everybody's talking about Captain Marvel. And this is before even the movie was talked about. It just, when the Carol Danvers character came to be.
But anyway, when DC did try to publish their comics to avoid confusion, they called the comics Shazam.
Ah, there's where that word comes in, or the naming of it comes in.
Yeah.
For that. Okay.
So it was just kind of created to avoid people, did you read the new issue? Read the new issue of Captain Marvel. I think it was just they did that to avoid any sort of kind of confusion that's going on right now, I think. Because I know there's people like me who are referring to Shazam as Captain Marvel, and there's people like Steven who are like, what does that have to do with that Brie Larson movie?
Yeah. Whereas, because I'm so out of the loop on the comics of those two characters, it's just Shazam and Captain Marvel to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, interesting. And so, what's even more interesting is just the fact that then these two movies came out just mere weeks from each other.
Both starring Digimon Hansu, no less.
Yeah, that's true. And he has a supporting role in each of them, which is interesting. Yeah, really fascinating. Now, who, like, let's say now in the comics, which one of these is more popular? I mean, it's probably hard because everything MCU becomes comic book, like takes a big bump in the comic book sales. But let's go back before these movies before these movies were announced. Who would have been more popular comic book sales speaking?
See, I don't know about sales, but honestly, when it comes to the quality of the comics, I'm going to go with Shazam.
It seems like that's what I would say, just because as someone who is a fringe comic book person, he was the one you always knew about more and was brought up more and was like being used in the in those animated features and things like that. So it's like you kind of saw this. In fact, the first time I remember seeing Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, was in that Avengers cartoon show that Disney XD did in like the 2011 or 12, somewhere in there. And they had her show up and kind of be amazing. Kind of like what I feel like is going to happen here in Endgame. They're teasing, or could happen in Endgame. But yeah, let's just go ahead and we'll go right into our review of. We'll do Captain Marvel for Marvel, the MCU Captain Marvel for people like Dakota are confused. So the MCU movie starring Brie Larson, just because it came out first. This has nothing to do with which one we think is better or whatever. Picking that one first just because of calendar. So don't get all hot at us. We get hot and heated. So Captain Marvel. Dakota, what is the story of this movie? It's very, like...
Oh, man.
When it starts, you think you know what's going on, and then they kind of play this weird timeline game with you.
Yeah, it's...
Which, I will admit, I thought was kind of interesting right away, but then got kind of tedious. I guess would be maybe the right word. I don't know, just like... I was just kind of ready to move on, I feel like that would have been better in a Phase 1 movie, but at this point in the Marvel movies, you're kind of like, can we just move on?
Yeah, I think it just boiled down to they were trying something new with this, just everyone that's launching like a new comic book character movie. It's like nobody wants to get kind of, you can't do like the tropes. You can't do... Sure. You can't have a movie that's too similar to, the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. Or,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't.
Yep.
You don't. Oddly enough, though, it seems like people are kind of aiming for what Batman Begins did, though.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think because a lot of people are starting to realize that Batman Begins is a fantastic movie. I think The Dark Knight, looming Dark Knight, is wearing off, and people are realizing how strong and masterfully made Batman Begins was, and how well it told an origin story without getting bogged down in here's when the villain's created and here's when the so this movie we're introduced to Brie Larson's Carol Danvers, and then we're quickly kind of put into this confusing timeline of understanding how we were introduced. Well, we aren't introduced to Carol Danvers. We're introduced to Veers.
Yeah,
and she's being trained by her mentor, and so you're kind of introduced to this group of, what would you call themselves? Kind of mercenaries of alien mercenaries.
Oh, they're more like SEAL Team 6, but for like this intergalactic empire.
Yeah, that's true. They're not really mercs. I guess they're more, like the elite squad of this intergalactic. I always got to do it like Rip Torn, but intergalactic group. And they go on this mission, and then that's when when Brie Larson's character Veers is taken, is when we're introduced to she has these memories that don't really match this space person. She has like these Earth memories, and it kind of becomes this what's going on here type story, and then eventually you end up in 90s grunge.
Yeah.
Is what's going on, she ends up in, what is it? Is it supposed to be 1995 Earth?
I think 94.
94. It's kind of this things ensue that cause her to end up on 1994 Earth, and we meet a young Nick Fury, a young Phil Coulson, for those of you who still hold that torch for Agent Coulson. and we're basically following her, trying to understand what the heck is going on with who she is, why is she special, why is she maybe not special, what's going on. And really, I feel like in a lot of ways this movie was just a lot of setup. It's kind of what it boils down to. It kind of felt like this is like the prologue to Avengers Endgame that you needed so that Endgame can make sense in different spots. You know?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I have kind of some things about this. There's some things about this film I really don't like. One of them kind of being the fact that we grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm not gonna get into that, but it's like this movie seems a little too steeped in the grunge culture. Like
everything feels like, yeah, it's like it made it seem like the entirety of the 90s world, the entirety of Earth in 1994 just was, everyone was completely influenced by Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, it was, she steals an outfit that's like very grungy. There's, oh my gosh, you even hear a Nirvana song in the movie.
Yeah.
Hole. The movie ends on a Hole song. For those who don't know what that is, that's Courtney Love's band, who was married to Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, every piece of this, it was like the directors, which there were two, were just like, we loved grunge, so it's all going to be grunge. I think the other thing too is they wanted it to be like, well, we got to make sure that everybody remembers it's 90s for every living second of this movie. And so the way they knew how to do that was being like, hey, grunge, like, hey, remember flannel shirts all the time? It's like, well, yeah, we live with hipsters now. Of course we remember flannel shirt.
Just kind of throwing this out there too, something I really took issue with in this movie. It's, why is Nick Fury like not the guy we know? He's not that tough kind of like.
Here, okay, I was feeling the same way. Here's the deal. Like, I feel like what Samuel Jackson was trying to do was be like, well, he wasn't hardened yet by years. No, bear with me because I'm on your side. And I wanted to I tried to give him a little leash because of that. But he just was like, he felt too silly. Yeah. And I just feel like the spy of spies, Nick Fury, I don't think even at his rookiest would have been that silly. Like just doing dumb stuff, like the way he's like, "Oh, kitty, kitty, kitty." I was like, ugh.
He kind of seemed like, whenever you have like a relative who's from the country and they go to like a big city, they're like kind of in awe. That's what he was like. And
and I don't know. It's kind of weird because I feel like even Nick Fury then, younger, more energetic Nick Fury, however you want to word it. The minute this alien or thing would have just come down and smashed into Earth, he would have gone into like got to figure this out mode, because that's who Nick Fury is. Because at this point, if he's still in charge of this group and he's still like the point man, I don't think it would be this guy that was like this goofball. It was kind of funny too because I felt like Coulson was really stoic in this movie. I feel like it was partially because Clark Gregg didn't know what to do. because they didn't give him a whole lot to do.
Yeah, I think he was just excited to finally be back in an MCU movie
on the big screen and not the little screen. Yeah.
And it doesn't really make any sense because it specifically stated in this movie that he's retired from the military and he made it as high as colonel. And it's like, is this what you were like as a colonel? Like,
I know. Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, because at first I gave a little leash, but then when it just kept getting like almost sillier as it went on, I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Even 20 years ago, Nick Fury, this doesn't make any sense. Especially, like you said, he's a guy who would have come out of the military, been thought of in this high regard to become leader of this new kind of division. And it's like, what? Yeah. And I feel like part of it was Marvel gets worried about trying to figure out how to have comic relief in their movies, and they didn't know who else to be comic relief because no one else could be comic relief. You know,
yeah.
Ben Mendelsohn had moments of comedy, but it was like, no, we got to have someone who's funny all the time or something. And the other thing that really bothered me about this movie was the way it was filmed. It felt really flat. I think we're just spoiled by how the Russos film and James Gunn, where they're always doing something interesting with the cameras, and you're always moving. And I felt like it felt like it was slowing the movie down, even though the pace of the movie wasn't slowing down. It just felt like since they weren't doing anything interesting with the camera, I just feel like we've been so spoiled at this point that they're not being careful about. Well, I don't know, that they maybe need to be more careful about who they're bringing onto these movies, because they're bringing on a lot of these, like, they want to bring this fresh young talent, but they got to make sure, I guess, that this fresh young talent they're bringing on knows a little bit what to do. I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like they knew what to do all the time.
Yeah, I think it was kind of...
Even the action scenes, I was like, it feels like they just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what... Because this movie, even though there's like a lot of action in it, it's not like you can't really compare it to like Guardians of the Galaxy or anything.
Yeah, which I wouldn't even consider like a bigger action movie. You know, you consider like Winter Soldier a big action movie. But yeah, it was like, when I think back, it's like, oh, I guess there was action in this movie. But even when, because we're going to talk about things that, I mean, obviously we all know she's going to become like this big, powerful superhero. Even when you get to the point when she's like powerful Captain Marvel, it felt really anticlimactic. It wasn't very climactic, because it was like, I think it was just the way they filmed it was so uninteresting that I wasn't really feeling the moment that should have been like, yeah, here she is, you know?
Yeah, it kind of, I don't know. It's just maybe they were going for like a certain style. I don't know. Maybe it also harkens to the fact that there were two directors on this.
Yeah, I couldn't put it together because I'm like, are they trying to make this look like a 90s movie too? Because it felt like they filmed it like a 90s movie where it's just really flat.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've grown past that. And not that everything needs to be like, I don't know, Dutch angles or whatever, but just like something, And again, we've been pretty spoiled with these James Gunns and Russos, and I feel like even Homecoming, there were some interesting things happening in that movie, and I guess that guy was kind of an up-and-comer. But sometimes I think, too, like when there's two directors put on a movie, I hold them to a higher standard, because it's like there's two of you.
Yeah.
You should be able to like make, do something more interesting if there's two of you.
I'm honestly surprised considering that it was basically almost two unknowns that were directing this.
Yeah, what did they do before this? I guess I'm not 100% sure.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm surprised like you didn't hear of like really any meddling from the studio on this one, considering how big it was. I mean, it's basically no matter how Avengers Endgame comes out, I think they're kind of touting Brie Larson is going to be kind of taking over the role that the Captain America role, where she's kind of
help us.
But yeah, it's for just something that was supposed to be like kind of important. It's like it was just kind of put out there. Like nothing about this movie really kind of made me go, Whoa, that was amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't. Nothing about it was special.
Yeah.
And there should have been something there that was. You had Nick Fury. You had this interesting Nick Fury stuff. You had this. This was the first title character female. Female was the main one and things like that. And I mean, she didn't even have that much of a bar to jump over. She just had to jump higher than Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, which isn't that high of a bar.
Yeah.
As far as like main Avengers.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I think that's the other thing is we were spoiled by Ryan Coogler with Black Panther. He would be another one I should have mentioned where he just made an interesting movie. Black Panther could have been more boring than it was too. But, I've gone back and watched it a few times even since we reviewed it, and I'm just like, this is just a good movie. And he had all these supporting females that were way more interesting than our main female character in this movie. Like, I was like, I'd almost rather watch a Shuri movie or something, than this. Or I can't even remember Danae's name, the General. Like a movie about her.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of sad. And the thing is I didn't hate this movie. I didn't hate Captain Marvel. I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
It was very, I don't know. It's one of those movies that I think in a couple of years we're probably going to be comparing it to like Iron Man 2. Or, I know you got a lot of love for the first Captain America, but kind of on that same one where it was just it got that character up off the ground.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the high point of that character.
And that's the thing is like the first Avenger is definitely not the high point of Captain America. But I've rewatched it a lot of times and still find it an interesting, fun movie to watch. Whereas Captain Marvel, even though I didn't hate it, it's just kind of there.
To be honest with you, I like the best part of this movie is easily Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
And he got like no praise. Everyone's like, "Oh, Brie Larson did such an amazing job." It's like she did pretty good with what she was given.
I think everybody felt like they were scared and had to because it was this big first female superhero character. And we're like, we have to make sure we tout her because we're gaining this. We got our foot in the door now. We don't want to lose it. But at the same time, we should still be allowed to praise the actual good things. And arguably, I would say that her friend was a high point of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad. She's another actress who I've never seen her before. And I thought she just did a really good job in a role that could have been just a real boring, just, hey, remember me? I'm your friend from the past. And she made something of it. Yeah. And that girl, I know people are like, is it just a tease to the comics or could she be the next?
Oh, the daughter that.
Cause she becomes someone in the comics.
I think her name's Proton in the comics or something like that.
But I thought because Ben Mendelsohn had to do something really interesting with his character in this movie. Should we just go straight into this? Would be a real spoiler.
Might as well. It's been out for a while.
Yeah, is that you find out he's not the villain that you think he is. Maybe he's not the greatest guy in the world, but he admits to making tough choices for the sake of his people. But you find out he's not actually the bad guy. And I thought that turn was believable in that he left enough there to when the turn happened, you're like, well, this turn doesn't make any sense. Yeah. There's enough there where you're like, oh, okay, he didn't do anything too despicable where I'm okay looking at him like this. And I mean, movie despicable. Maybe if we knew him in real life or something. But I thought all that worked. I thought all that worked well. And I'm even careful to say that this movie wasn't even necessarily Brie Larson's fault. I don't think it was necessarily anything wrong she did. I just think whoever was harnessed was I guess you have to blame the directors because they're the ones steering the ship. I just don't know if they knew how to do it well.
Yeah, I don't know.
And what's going to be interesting is that Avengers Endgame was filmed before this movie because they filmed it back to back with Infinity War. And so technically Brie Larson played Captain Marvel first in Avengers Endgame. And so I think that's going to be really the tell with if it's the directors or if Brie Larson maybe isn't totally suited. Because what we see of her in Endgame will technically have been made before she did Captain Marvel. And so I think before we can really blame her too much, we're going to have to wait till Endgame.
Yeah.
You know? So, that being said, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this movie. There were fun things in it. It's going to come to Disney Plus in November. So I guess you can maybe wait till then to totally see it and of course Endgame comes out. She'll be in that. So
yeah,
I don't really care about a Captain Marvel 2 really right now, I guess. It's kind of the main thing.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie didn't really get me hyped up for the character.
Yeah, no, it didn't. And it wasn't even because when I went into this movie, I didn't go in like so psyched for Endgame that I couldn't think about anything else. I really went into this movie just thinking it was going to be a Captain Marvel movie and just left it at that. And so I guess I would even, preface this with that, this is even coming from someone who is able to be like, you know what, I'm just going to treat this as a Captain Marvel movie. So that being said, I don't know. What do you give it, Dakota?
Should we go stars?
Yeah, let's go out of 5.
Out of 5?
Out of 5 Captain Marvel star logos.
I'll give it 2.
2 Captain Marvel star logos.
Yeah.
Out of 5. I'm gonna go. I feel higher than a 2. I'll just do 3 because I feel like it just fits right in there with kind of those middling comic book movies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because there were things in this that I enjoyed. Just as a whole, it was just kind of there.
Yeah, 5 years down the road, I don't think we're really going to be looking at this movie like, oh, wow, this is... Actually, in 5 years, this is honestly probably going to be one of those movies like Thor, the Dark World,
Yeah, I think it'll be remembered for making a lot of money, and being the female superhero-led movie that made a lot of money. This would be the main thing it's remembered for. And however that character continues on in the future, because Thor got better as time went on. That character got more interesting. So, and people, he's more popular now than he was from Thor and Thor: The Dark World, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
No matter how you feel about the character now, people like him more, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I could say something, but that'll open up a whole other can of worms. I'll save that for Endgame, I guess.
Yeah, what I'm saying is just on the whole, she could pull a Thor where it become more like down the road. So that's Captain Marvel. So time to turn our attention to the other Captain Marvel, more commonly and popularly referred to now as Shazam.
Yeah.
Apparently I wasn't given any powers from a wizard because I said Shazam and no lightning bolt completely destroyed your house and made me into a hulking man. Partially because I'm already a hulking man.
I was gonna say, if you were granted powers, I think lightning would just hit you and you'd probably still stay the same.
Or I'd probably just die. I'd do it and have a stutter or something. Oh, so Shazam came out April 5th, right at the beginning of April, whereas Captain Marvel was kind of beginning of March.
Yep.
They were about a month apart. And Shazam, as Dakota touched on in his little history of Captain Marvel things at the beginning, it starts out as a little kid. A little kid who's given powers by a wizard. And is the wizard's name Shazam?
Yeah.
That was my understanding, if I heard correctly.
I'm not really... Yes.
Sorry. Your speakers are fine. Dakota's having just a brain fart.
I was going to interject something there. When he does say Shazam, each letter in the whole name actually stands for something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you picked that up in the movie, but it was something in the comics that, like, at the very if you opened up a Shazam comic, it was like the very first thing you saw, which was,
So it's supposed to be like an acronym you're talking?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
the wizard, I always thought that was odd. That was the wizard's name, but he kind of like, he kind of imbued the name with these powers from these biblical Greek Roman figures.
Yeah. Yeah, so this movie had a really cool prologue scene, which Lionel Luthor was in this movie, playing the guy who played Lionel Luthor, Lex's dad in Smallville, is in this movie, playing another rich jerk guy.
Yeah, Jonathan Glover, right?
John Glover.
John
Yes,
Glover.
yeah. What happens is we're in this car. It looks like it's probably the 70s.
Yeah, they're supposed to be a well-off family, but the car looks kind of crappy just because
Yeah.
it's an older car.
Yeah, they wanted to just look like the big 70s car you think of. And it's a dad, an older son, and a young son in the back seat traveling. And you're understanding that the son in the back seat isn't really well liked by his father. Isn't really highly thought of. And this weird moment happens where this boy is all of a sudden pulled to this place where we meet Shazam, the wizard. And Shazam tests this boy to see if he's worthy to take the powers of Shazam and be the protector to keep the 7 deadly sins out of the world, or from wreaking havoc on the world.
Yeah.
Basically, and this boy fails, and this boy is like back in the car again, and what he's seeing is his crappy life, and he's so upset that things failed. And the movie kind of takes off from there, where this boy, an accident happens, and this boy, you see, just the rest of his life is just this obsession to find the place where that wizard is, because he wants, now that he knows the power he could have, he's determined to get there and get it back. And this boy grows up into Mark Strong, the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, then we're introduced to Billy Batson, our main hero kid. He's a runaway foster kid. Is that how he's in the comics? He's a foster kid, runaway type deal?
If I remember right, I think he was originally he was just living on the streets, basically.
Okay.
He's kind of, but I know in the current continuity, he is a foster child.
Okay. Yeah, and we kind of meet him kind of living this way because this really weird backstory seemed really confusing until they explain it later in the movie. I'm like, he just got separated from his mom at a county fair, and so he's a foster kid now? It was very strange, and it's like, it made no sense and bothered me for like the first hour of the movie, where I'm just like, I don't understand how he just loses his mom in a crowd, doesn't even get kidnapped by anyone, and somehow just can't be with his mom again. Like, where is his mom? It didn't make any sense to me. Well, later you find out, wow, it does make sense. And we're introduced to him. The reason partially that he keeps running away from foster homes is he's trying to find his mother. He's searching every Batson woman he can find, just desperate to find her. And I don't know, how'd you feel about this kid? I mean, he was basically our hero. He just wasn't the Zachary Levi version. How'd you feel about him in this movie as our main character?
You know, I actually kind of liked him. I don't know. It was just he pretty much captured the essence of the character, I thought, because Billy Batson, was a bit of a troublemaker. I remember in one of the, I think it's the comics or something, he ends up stealing Cyborg's. He managed to finagle Cyborg before he's Cyborg.
Oh my gosh!
Back when he is a popular, college football player.
Star.
Yeah, he manages to basically swindle him out of his jersey. So it's pretty. He's kind of a trickster, I guess.
A little rascal.
Yeah, And I don't know. I just thought that worked pretty well. I mean, without getting to the point where you just think this, it could have gotten really to where you just hated the kid because he's such just a little snot.
Yeah,
But
and you do. I did. I hated him, honestly. I was like, I don't know. I just felt like I get what they were doing with him. I just felt like there's a few times where it's like it was a bit much, and I think why I actually started to hate him more as the movie went on, and I think it's because I felt like when he turned into Shazam, it didn't feel like it was the same kid anymore. Like I didn't feel like it's supposed to be just him, right? But in a big person's body.
well, he's supposed to have the wisdom of Solomon too. I mean,
Well, and that was the other thing. Did he? Because Shazam's kind of an idiot. But I just felt like he was kind of this like, stupid runaway kid. And then when he came Shazam, he's like, blah, 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 blah. He had like way more personality and was like way more hyped up about everything. And then all of a sudden he's a little kid again. He's like, blah, blah, whatever. I just feel like there was like Zachary Levi and that kid probably should have had more conversations together or something in real life so there wasn't such a disconnect or something. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it matched very well.
yeah, there is that. That's a little. It does get a little distracting in the movie. Yeah, I don't think there's really an explanation for why that is.
So, well, and so anyway, so we have Shazam is basically Shazam the Wizard is desperate to find someone worthy, and in the meantime, our bad guy who met Shazam as a kid is finding everyone who basically had these experiences with going into this chamber place and, you know, taking them all seriously because he knows it happened because it happened to him, desperately trying to figure out the way to get back to Shazam the Wizard. And kind of the deal with it is that if someone takes the temptation instead of being found good, they release these 7 deadly sins into the world, which are personified in monster form.
Yeah,
I guess. Is that how it is in the comics too, where there's like these 7 monsters that represent each of the sins?
yeah.
Okay.
And the Wizard Shazam basically kind of keeps them
At bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're kind of frozen in that form. In the comics, though, they look goofy. Like there have been some people that complain about what they look like in this movie, but no, they look completely goofy in the comics, like laughably goofy.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say the goofy in this movie. What I thought was funny about this movie is it made me laugh to think like this is where we are now, where you can make a comic book movie that is like, we need to keep these 7 monsters at bay, and they just do it with no explanation, with no regard for taking it too seriously. Whereas I feel like if this movie were made 15 years ago, it would have been done differently, like how they had to black leather the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where it would have been like, well, we can't do that. That's too fantastical, and that's too much magic.
Yeah.
You know, where they would have somehow toned it down. Whereas now we're just in this time where it's like, nope, there's these monsters that we have to deal with, and it's just kind of interesting that this is where we are now, that they can just do that. But yeah, so he ends up with this foster group home, and Billy Batson does, and he kind of befriends the one kid who's basically his age, who's also in this foster home, who is kind of basically his confidant as he's learning and understanding to be Shazam, which I'm sure if you've seen the trailer at all, they show a lot of that stuff in the trailer. But I thought there was a lot of fun moments with those two trying to figure out things. I just didn't realize how much of this movie was going to be them just stumbling through understanding how to be Shazam. That was a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
Was just them just stumbling through life with this Shazam thing. I guess that kind of surprised me. I don't know. Did that surprise you?
It was because you see the trailer. I saw the trailer for this movie and it was like, okay, they really went kind of on a smaller scale with this one. It wasn't like Man of Steel.
Yeah.
But it's like, what would they have packed in this movie to make it like 2 hours long?
yeah, even a little over 2 hours. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a lot of this movie is them just trying to figure out how the powers work and what name they should give him. Which my favorite moment with that is when he wants to call him Thundercrack. He's like, that sounds like a butt thing. And what was the other one? Captain Sparkle Fingers or something? There were some fun moments with that stuff. And I thought that when he is Shazam, Zachary Levi, I thought I had a real good kind of back and forth with that foster brother.
Yeah.
With the crutch thing. I thought they had a real good kind of chemistry in that. He apparently should have hung out with the kid who was playing him younger a little more because they needed to have a little more. And so really, though, so you have this stuff kind of going on, but then on the other side, the other part of this movie is just what I found that I liked more about this movie was the story of Billy Batson just learning how to not be a creep, like just a young creep who relies on himself, and just learning what family is. And part of it is, like, I realized as we went on, like, I'm kind of supposed to hate him, I think. I mean, you're not supposed to hate Billy Batson, but it's not that I should hate him. It's that he doesn't understand family. He doesn't understand what it is to have anyone, because he never really did. But he also never allowed himself, because he had all these opportunities and all these good foster homes, and he never allowed himself to have family. And I really thought that story was pretty well told in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like the beginning. I thought the beginning, this movie is marketed as a kids movie, but the beginning has like there's let's just say an accident on the road, and that was kind of it was something you'd expect to see like in a horror movie almost, where it was a little too
like the way the scene took place, it'd be like like the beginning of some Halloween movie or something. Yeah.
And then there's a scene in here where I don't know, is it a spoiler if we say he eventually finds his mom?
Yo, sure. Yeah. No, I mean,
we've
been spoiling stuff, so
the scene where he finds his mom is actually kind of heartbreaking.
It's painful.
It's
that woman does an excellent job in that role. Because, okay, so here's the thing that bothered me for the first out of the movie. When they show the original scene where Billy loses his mom at the beginning, his mom looks just beautiful, and she's desperately trying to get him this tiger and hit the balloon with the dart, and she isn't. And then they get separated, and then you see, and he can't find her and things. And then we cut to him finally finding his mom, his actual mom. She looks grungy. And then they cut back, and you watch that scene again, but without Billy's, like, rose-colored glasses, and you realize she looked disheveled still and poor, and she's like, just hang on, I'm trying to do the thing, and whatever. And it just isn't quite as glamorous as Billy's memory makes it. And the thing that bothered me with him, like, he just got lost in the crowd and was found by cops. I don't understand why his mom couldn't find him. She does. She sees him with the cops and realizes he's better off with somebody else, and just leaves him to be in the system, basically, and continue on with just loser boyfriends. And it is painful. That scene, because that woman plays it so well, where when she just looks at him, she's just like, oh God, why are you here? And there's this like one quick millisecond where you think she's going to show compassion to him, and then she just kind of shuts down again, and it's tough. It's kind of it's a hard scene for, like, what you're talking about is kind of like overall just kind of a silly comedy take of a superhero movie. But I did think, as hard as that scene was, I did like that felt real. Like, it's like, as sad as that was, it felt like something that could really be,
Yeah.
which is sad to say. But yeah, it's I don't know, this movie I liked it a lot. I found myself enjoying much of it, but at the same time I felt like it had a lot of things, but it didn't have enough of some things. And then at the end it was like, yeah, I liked it, but I don't know how if I would like just loved it. I don't know. Dakota, what are your kind of thoughts overall on Shazam?
Oh man, I think there's so much to like in this movie. I think probably more so probably than there's stuff to dislike. But,
yeah. Yep.
But at the same time, it's like the villain's kind of weak in this. I think the end fight takes a little too long, even though it is the end fight. I think at the same time was kind of cool.
It was cool, but yeah, it was like they didn't know how to quite pace it or something with how they did it.
Yeah, some of the CGI did kind of look.
Yeah, it's a little rough in spots.
Pretty kind of iffy. And it's just, for the stuff I just mentioned, there's other things too. There's the foster family that Billy kind of gets taken into. Apparently the director was kind of going for like a Goonies vibe with the whole kind of set of them, because he has what is it, 5 foster brothers and sisters?
Yeah, there's a girl who's a senior. There's a real quiet kid who's probably like supposed to be like late junior high, early high school. A little African American girl who's all spunky.
The Asian kid, you gotta have the Asian kid.
The Asian kid who's a nerd, like obsessed with playing video games all the time.
I said Asian kid. What?
But he didn't play violin.
Oh, right.
Or really, we didn't know if he was good at math.
Oh, and he wasn't a quote unquote hacker, I guess.
Yeah, he just was always playing video games either on his phone or on the TV. Yeah, they kind of had, and I thought, and that was the thing. I thought everybody in the movie did fine. I liked everyone in the movie. I thought they were really good in their roles and what they were given. And Mark Strong, I thought for what he had, I thought he was pretty sinister, and you really believed him as this like obsessed person who's kind of just angry about always feeling like he got the shaft or something. You really feel that in him.
I'm going to throw this out there since we're kind of spoiling it. I have a theory about this movie, and I just want to put it out there because I haven't gotten a chance yet. Well, when Shazam finally passes his powers along to Billy, he kind of does that thing where he, fades away.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like I think we're supposed to assume he died, but I think he's just like, I saw this go down before. I don't want to watch it go down again.
Yeah, well,
so I'm just gonna go to another dimension for a while.
How does that work? Like when he gave his powers to Billy, is he just gone?
It was in the comics. It was just like that, where he just kind of, I think, faded away.
Okay.
And they never said specifically if he was dead. You were just supposed to assume it, but I think he's just like, man, I am not going through this again.
Yeah.
Last time 7 deadly sins got loose, they screwed the earth up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's kind of exasperated. He's the last of the wizards, and he's like, I'm done with this.
There you go. There's your idea for the sequel, Warner Brothers.
And the movie kind of teased these other dimensions too in a scene where you're kind of teased and are given glimpses that there are these other dimensions that the wizards watch over. And so it makes you think that in some capacity they want to deal with those in the next movie or the next movie.
Yeah, there was so many references to the old comics. We talked about this. Some Shazam villains called the Crocodile Men have a brief cameo.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, they went there. Because it's basically some some crocodiles that are anthropomorphic.
Just crocodiles sitting at a table wearing suits.
And I think in the comics they were supposed to have like the persona of like gangsters.
Well, that would be about how they looked in this. Yeah, it was basically like if you open the door and there were crocodiles reenacting The Godfather. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how fantastical they go. Because I think if there's one thing we saw from Aquaman, apparently DC's willing to go fantastical because that movie had an octopus playing drums and people riding seahorses and sharks. And so, I mean, they must not be afraid to go there anymore with their movies. So who knows?
I'll actually do a public service announcement. Anyone that saw this movie and was confused by the little caterpillar at the ending.
And after credits, he's talking.
Yeah, that was actually a character. It's a villain from the Shazam comics called Mr. Mind.
There you go. Oh, it's mid credits. Sorry.
Yeah, and he's basically like he can control people's minds. He's like, he can do magic, and he's like really smart. Like he's capable of like building stuff.
But he's literally like the size of a caterpillar.
His signature move is kind of burrowing in people's ear, and then he just controls you from there and makes you his puppet, essentially.
Basically like Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
So, who was the voice of that Mr. Mind? It seemed like a familiar voice.
You know something? I thought that too, but I have no idea who it was.
I should have guessed that caterpillar was going to come back because they purposely showed it at one point early on in the movie, and then later they purposely showed that the glass was broken and that the caterpillar was gone. And I'm like, man, they're really, really honing in on this caterpillar, aren't they? But I didn't know about this whole Mr. Mind thing. I'm sure all the nerds were like, oh, there was a caterpillar. Like Dakota. That's exactly what he did. Dakota was like, the caterpillar.
Yeah, he's kind of he did do one big thing in the comics. His kind of thing was he created the Monster Society of Evil, which he got
Mr. Mind did?
Yeah. Which, for those of you who don't know that was, he basically gathered up all of Shazam's villains and like, let's just go at him all at once.
You know what they need to do? Okay, so James Gunn is doing the sequel to Suicide Squad, apparently.
Yeah.
And they need to bring back Killer Croc, who's supposed to be like kind of an idiot. But have Killer Croc all of a sudden just be acting totally different than he acted in the last one. Like, smart, together, and then have everyone confused, and then all of a sudden have Mr. Mind come out of his ear, like near the end of the movie, and you're finding out that Mr. Mind was using Killer Croc for like his power or something. And James Gunn could pull that off. So,
yeah, it gives me hope that they might make a sequel where Captain Nazi is a thing.
I don't know. Do they want to do Nazis anymore? It seems like Nazis get so overdone have been so overdone.
I think it's time we see a movie where a Nazi who's kind of has, Captain America's powers, just gets the crap kicked out of him.
That's true because with the first Avenger, they really leaned away from Nazis. They made everything Hydra.
Yeah,
like there wasn't. I think it was because Disney was like, you can't have swastikas in a Disney movie.
Yeah, I think it's funny when the Justice League show was on Cartoon Network. They did a story where like somebody went back in time and altered the outcome of World War II, so the Nazis had won.
Okay.
And there wasn't a single swastika in the whole episode.
Even though the Nazis were winning and won? Oh, my gosh.
I think it was like their symbol was like a red banner with like a black lightning bolt.
Yeah, everybody gets kind of there's a lot of touchy feelings about the swastika and if we should be showing it to kids too much. And so I'm sure that was probably like them being like, let's not. So, yeah. So, Shazam, since we did the 5-star system, let's do that again. But we'll do it 5 lightning bolts.
5 lightning bolts. Okay.
We'll just each use their symbols. So out of 5 lightning bolts, what do you give Shazam?
Oh, 3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I think I'm kind of like right in that like 3.5, like 3 to 3.5 range also.
Okay.
Just because, I think I'm just giving it more grace because it was a watchable DC movie that I would watch again, and it's been a long time since I've wanted to watch a DC movie again. Probably, Dark Knight Rises. Well, Man of Steel.
Wow.
Maybe the last one that I was like, I'll watch that again. It's been a while. BVS, still only seen it once. Justice League once. Yeah.
See, I think Justice League is more watchable than Batman v Superman.
Oh, what am I thinking? Wonder Woman. That was one I'd watch again. I forgot about Wonder Woman. Who would have thought the new Trinity of DC would be Wonder Woman? Well, that makes sense. She's original, but then that would be Aquaman and Shazam, and that Batman and Superman would be the one that they would drop the ball on.
Well, don't forget they kind of just don't care about getting the Flash movie made anymore.
Yeah,
Ezra Miller is the only one keeping that alive.
Yeah, and he pulled in a new writer to help him do it or something. But it's just interesting though that Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman are the ones that are working right now. Wow, it's just weird to think about.
I think it's basically because those are the movies where Zack Snyder really didn't have any influence on.
I also think it's because DC had no faith in him, and I think just gave them more a little looser on what the directors were allowed to do. Not that they didn't have any faith,
yeah,
but we're like, yeah, I mean, just do whatever you want. It's Aquaman. Nobody really cares about Aquaman anyway. And then James Wan was able to make just like a ridiculous 80s movie. And then with Shazam, it was like, yeah, I don't know, brighten it up and you can make it a comedy. And then they figured out, and they made that work. And it's just interesting how this is going. And now we'll see next year with Wonder Woman 84 where she goes, if how they keep this Wonder Woman ball rolling, because that's another character. She's still the most intriguing character to me so far in these DC movies. She's the one, like, just when I watched that movie, you just like her. You like her, you care about her, and she's just so well fitted to that role. And so it'll just be interesting to see where they go with her.
I think it's interesting that still, even though Zack Snyder has been fired, he still kind of has some influence because he's the guy that picked Jason Momoa for Aquaman and Gal Gadot for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, good casting.
Like he made that call, and it's like that was a good call. That was a suspiciously good call.
Yeah,
given your track record recently.
He also picked Jared Leto.
Yeah.
So
and the thing that I
like Ezra Miller, and he picked Ezra Miller. I thought Ezra Miller was a good Flash. But.
See, one thing that I still am completely blown away by, he picked a good actor to play Superman.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been portrayed well.
And the thing is, I think we saw glimpses of that Henry Cavill can do it. In Justice League, we saw glimpses, but it would have probably been the stuff that Zack Snyder wasn't directing.
Yeah.
It was the stuff that made it a lighter, quicker movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what's good. The Superman thing is the new Batman. It was always like, Ben Affleck's in, Ben Affleck's out. Well, now he's out. But now I don't think we know about Henry Cavill. He's in, he's out. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I know he was willing to do more Superman stuff about a year ago. Because he did make a joke like, oh, well, I feel like I should be in Shazam, have a little cameo in Shazam.
And Jason Momoa acts like Henry Cavill still. He's like, he's my man. But who knows?
I'm still blown away at the fact that Aquaman came out and then the Lego Movie 2 came out. And they immediately referenced the Jason Momoa Aquaman.
Yeah, but it was more of a Justice League reference because they had him do the "my man."
Because that would have looked so bad if Aquaman had bombed.
No, it still would have been funny. That's the beauty of Lego Movie, is that they can make fun of things that were terrible and good, and it doesn't matter because it's just this farcical Lego world. And so it's kind of like in Lego Batman, where they had villains from good movies and villains from bad movies and put them all together. And it was funny because some were from good and some were from bad, and so that's the beauty of Lego Movie. By the way, Lego Movie 2, people, give it a shot. It's better than everybody seems to be making it out to be, or that it did. I should say, but then the box office led you to believe.
Yeah, something, that movie came out, and I actually really liked it way more than the first one.
Thank you for saying that out loud.
I don't know.
Because I still feel like I do too, but I don't know.
I don't know if it's the catchy songs or the fact that
literal catchy song,
or the fact that future oh wow, I shouldn't have said that. The fact that how can I put this? Let's just say there's a Kurt Russell impersonation in this movie that just I think is hysterical, given the fact that the guy who was doing the Kurt Russell impersonation starred with him in a movie.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Didn't think about that. That is pretty funny. Anyway, as you could tell, it's been a long time since we've done a podcast episode because we are just digressing like crazy. But it's been so much fun to be back. And it was fun doing this double review. And it was fun keeping you from doing anything productive for this past hour. But I think we're going to bring this episode to a close. We are so thankful you are listening. And we hope you continue to listen as we continue to bring you more episodes in the future again. So if you'll just, we're on Facebook. If you want to like us there, you can subscribe to us on any of your podcasty things or on YouTube, wherever you listen. We always appreciate that. And we just thank you so much for listening to this episode. This is Steven.
And this is Dakota.
See you later.